Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense put on a clinic against Steve Spagnuolo's Chiefs defense in the Super Bowl. Hurts averaged 10 yards per pass attempt and posted a passer rating of 119.7, both of which were the highest allowed by the Chiefs defense all season, excluding Kansas City's inconsequential Week 18 game against Denver. Hurts and the Eagles offense moved the ball effortlessly all night. But before I get into how they did it, let me first explain who they were going up against. Chiefs defensive play caller Steve Spagnuolo is the best in the world at making quarterbacks uncomfortable. His approach is aggressive and unpredictable. He sends blitzes from where quarterbacks least expect, and his pre-snap looks are almost never a reliable indicator of what's going to happen post-snap, especially in high-leverage situations. During the regular season, the Chiefs blitzed on 34% of their defensive snaps against the pass, which was the 5th highest blitz rate in the league. They also played man coverage 33% of the time, which ranked 8th in the league. On third downs, their blitz call rate jumped about 5 percentage points to 39%, and their man coverage rate jumped about 14 percentage points to 47%. Through blitzes up front and aggressive coverage calls behind the blitzes, Spags forces quarterbacks to make lightning-quick decisions. And this play from 2 weeks ago in the AFC Championship is a great example of what it looks like when it works. It's 4th and 5 with the game on the line, and the Chiefs line up in a 2-high safety shell with 6 defenders on the line of scrimmage. The 2 extra defenders on the line, in addition to the 4 defensive linemen, are a linebacker, Nick Bolton, and a safety, Justin Reed. With only 5 men in pass protection, Buffalo needs to bet on where the blitz is coming from. They can't block all 6, so they have to decide who to leave unblocked. A linebacker is more likely to blitz than a safety, so the Bills make a half-slide protection call to Nick Bolton's side. That tells the right tackle to take the edge one-on-one and the remaining 4 linemen to slide to the left, leaving Justin Reed unblocked. Post-snap, Kansas City not only sent Reed on a blitz, but also sent the wide corner, which got 2 rushers in free, and forced Josh Allen to improvise before he could even look downfield. The call created chaos as soon as the ball was snapped, and there wasn't even any major flaw in the offense's process. Josh Allen's incompletion sealed the game and sent Kansas City to the Super Bowl. But the chaos that Spagnuolo's blitzes require up front can put a lot of stress on the defensive backfield when the blitz doesn't get home. Extra defenders rushing the passer shrinks the margin for error in coverage by forcing more one-on-one matchups. Here, for example, Spagnuolo called a 3-deep fire zone blitz with press man coverage on the outside. Kansas City rushed both Nick Bolton and Shamari Connor and rolled from this pre-snap 2-high safety look into a 1-high safety coverage with Justin Reed playing the post. That coverage rotation left both wide corners on islands. Trent McDuffie was responsible for A.J. Brown lined up at the bottom of your screen, and Jalen Watson was responsible for Jahan Dotson up top, both isolated in press man coverage with no safety help. Usually, Spagnuolo can let his wide corners play aggressive press man on islands, but their jobs become a whole lot harder when the pass rush doesn't get to the quarterback. Thanks to a great blitz pickup by Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts set up to throw from a super clean pocket, and got an accurate ball off in time to Jahan Dotson on a go route. Deep shots to isolated receivers were key to the Eagles' offensive game plan. Later in the first half, A.J. Brown beat Trent McDuffie at the catch point on a 3rd down back shoulder fade, and late in the 3rd quarter, Devontae Smith brought in a 50-yard bomb on a skinny post route to put the Eagles up 34-0. Another major complicating factor for Spagnuolo's defense in this game was Jalen Hurts' mobility. Hurts finished as the game's leading rusher with 72 yards on the ground, and 60 of those 72 yards came on scrambles. The blitzes that Kansas City sends can be lethal when they generate a free runner, but when they're blocked up, the defense becomes susceptible to the quarterback's mobility. Here, for example, Kansas City presented a single high safety look that will roll into a quarter-half coverage post-snap, with the nickel defender playing the deep half up top and the deep safety playing the inside quarter on the other side. It's a weird coverage rotation that, combined with the 5-man blitz, is intended to force Jalen Hurts to speed up his process. But with no pressure generated by the rush and no QB spy, Hurts picks up an easy 14 yards with his legs on 2nd and long. Hurts' mobility forced Spagnuolo out of his comfort zone because the Chiefs needed to include a QB spy on the majority of their coverage calls. That meant that Spags was effectively down a man either in coverage or in the pass rush. Kansas City blitzed on only 20% of Jalen Hurts' dropbacks in the Super Bowl. which was 14 percentage points lower than their regular season blitz rate of 34%. On quite a few of Hurts' dropbacks, the player who would have been the extra pass rusher was forced to spy Hurts, but because Hurts is such a good athlete, the spy was rarely even effective. On this 3rd and 11 from Philadelphia's first drive of the game, Kansas City called quarters with a 4-man rush and Nick Bolton in the spy role. Philadelphia called 4 verticals, but when Hurts reached the depth of his dropback, he had nothing open. The wide corners won their matchups over the number 1 receivers, the 2 inside receivers were both doubled, and the back hadn't yet left the backfield. There was a scramble lane to Hurts' left, so he stepped up into it, which got Bolton to bite. Hurts then left the pocket to his right and picked up 9 yards with his legs to set up 4th down and short. Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore executed a great game plan that successfully exploited multiple defensive tendencies. But the paramount deciding factor in this matchup was not coaching, nor was it the receivers or even Jalen Hurts. It was the colossal disparity in talent between Philadelphia's offensive line and Kansas City's defensive line. Take a look at this play from early in the second half. The key route here is the wheel from the tight end Dallas Goedert in green. It's an ideal route against man coverage, so that's where Hurts wants to go with the ball post-snap, because Kansas City is in cover 1 rat, which calls for man coverage across the board with a post safety and a rat linebacker over the middle. Post-snap, Devontae Smith generates a slight pick on the safety, which puts Goedert in a great position to separate at the break with the safety leveraged heavily outside. But he slips, which throws off the timing of the route and causes Hurts to check off. At this point, the play should be broken. You can see Hurts' internal clock telling him to leave the pocket and improvise. But look at the pocket. None of the 4 pass rushers are even within 3 yards of the quarterback. This is unreal pass protection. They held up the pocket for about 4 seconds, and it looked like they could have gone another 4. Saquon Barkley had an off day, but Philadelphia's dominance up front was evident in the run game too. Look at this play from late in the first half. Philly called a wide zone run to the weak side, which tells each offensive lineman to take a play side step. Because the center and left tackle are uncovered, they'll join the guy to their right on a double team. Look at the displacement generated by the 3 guys on the front side of this run. Lane Johnson takes George Karlaftis out of the play, and the ace block between Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens puts Chris Jones on skates. And watch Jordan Mailata explode out of his stance from the backside to seal Nick Bolton off. Steve Spagnuolo has been subjected to a lot of criticism for Kansas City's difficulty on defense in the Super Bowl. But schematically, there isn't much you can do when your defensive line looks like this. And it wasn't just the defensive line. Spagnuolo's defensive backs evidently couldn't hang with Philadelphia's receivers, and his linebackers couldn't track down Jalen Hurts in space. Spags didn't call a perfect game, but Philadelphia's dominance on offense was a result of an imbalance in talent much more than an imbalance in coaching. Let me take you back to the first play I showed you, where Jalen Hurts connected with Jahan Dotson on a perfectly placed go ball to put the Eagles in scoring position early. Pre-snap, Philadelphia came out in a trips formation with 3 receivers to the right of the center, and Kansas City sent the blitz from the trips side. The protection call slid to where the blitz was coming from, so nobody got in free and Hurts had a clean pocket. It didn't work because Jahan Dotson separated on his go route and Hurts hit him in stride, but this blitz laid the foundation for a complementary call on the following drive. On the previous play, Kansas City rushed the middle linebacker and the nickel, but Philadelphia blocked it up because the offensive line slid to that side. This time, Kansas City presents a very similar pre-snap look. They've got the 2 linebackers walked up close to the line of scrimmage in between the tackles, and the nickel's body language subtly suggests that he may be blitzing. So Philadelphia made the same half-slide protection call to the strong side, but here Kansas City blitzed from the weak side. They sent the wide corner, who got picked up by Saquon Barkley, and Nick Bolton, who got in free, while Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson blocked nobody. The quick pressure forced a terrible decision by Jalen Hurts, and the Chiefs were rewarded with a turnover. This was arguably the only scheme win for Spagnuolo in this game, but it was also one of very few opportunities for scheme wins. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense faced 3rd and 6 or more only 5 times in the first 3 quarters, and they only converted on 2 of those 5 attempts. Spags is in his element when the offense is forced into passing downs, but Kansas City lost this game on early downs. I bet that there were at least a handful of beautiful blitz designs that we never got to see on Sunday, because Kansas City just couldn't force the Eagles into passing downs consistently. Of course, Spags is not blameless for those early down losses, but no adjustment in the X's and O's would have been enough to overcome Philadelphia's Jimmies and Joes. The Eagles were simply the better football team.